those grocery prices. If you feel like you're doing everything you can to keep your food costs under control, we've got some tips that you might find helpful.
So you're already shopping sales.
Check.
You're already cutting back.
Check.
And you're using less expensive ingredients.
Check.
But you're still feeling frustrated with the amount of money you're having to lay out because of our inflation. We've got some simple tips that will help you stretch your meals and save some money. Hey, if you don't know us, I'm Larry.
And I'm Hope.
And we're from Under the Median, where every week we talk about practical frugality.
In this video, what we're really going to address are 20 specific ways that we realized that we are stretching our food in order to feed our family for more than one meal. Now, essentially, what this entails is looking at food that is left over. You feed your family a main dish, there's enough left over maybe for one person for lunch the next day, maybe two if you're lucky. So you put it in a dish, you label it, you stick it in the fridge, and you tell yourself, somebody will take that for lunch tomorrow. Well, when that doesn't happen, we all know what happens, right? You wind up shoving it further and further toward the back of the refrigerator, and 5 or 6 days later, you find yourself scraping that food that was perfectly good 5 days ago into the garbage can because nobody has eaten it. These tips will help you absolutely to alleviate that problem. Not only that, it will show you how to stretch those leftovers that are only enough for 1 or 2 people and use them to feed a family of 4 for an entire another meal. Let's get started. I'm so excited.
You know, when Hope and I come to you with ideas, it's because we've implemented them first in our family. So in this video, we're going to show you actual photos of the meals that Hope has put together using these leftovers.
Tip number 1, serve that main dish over a starch. A starch will help you to feel fuller, longer, and it absolutely will stretch that main dish. As an example, you could serve your main dish over rice, you could put it over noodles, or you could even put it over something like a potato. All of these starches are incredibly inexpensive. Now, if you want something that's a little more exotic, you might try putting it over millet or even quinoa. These are going to be a little bit more expensive per pound, but they are really interesting and a change of pace if you're kind of tired of eating a whole lot of rice or a whole lot of potatoes.
You know, the nice thing about the millet, it has kind of a nutty flavor, so it does give you a change of pace. And what's nice about these kind of fillers is that they are nutritious, so you're not just adding empty calories to your dish.
Let's say that you've done exactly what we told you. You took your main dish, you put it over some rice, you served your family, and you're like, oh, there's those leftovers. How are you going to take those leftovers, which remember we said were enough for maybe a couple of people for lunch the next day? I'm going to tell you exactly how to stretch it so it will serve your family of 4. And that's in the next tip. You're going to take those leftovers and you're going to roll them up in a tortilla.
You know, Hope does this often, and we enjoy that kind of a meal where we take the tortillas, roll them up. We might put those in the toaster oven to kind of warm them up and crisp them up at the same time. Those are really good. Then if you dip them in some ketchup or barbecue sauce, it even adds a little bit more zing to it. But what if you're avoiding gluten?
You can use large cabbage leaves and actually wilt them just a little bit. I put them in some sort of a container and a little bit of water in the microwave for a couple of minutes just to wilt them down. Makes them really flexible. You can take those leftovers and just roll them up inside of that cabbage leaf. Put them in the toaster oven, heat them until they're heated through, and you've made cabbage roll-ups that don't have extra gluten in them.
You can also do the same thing with colored green leaves.
Number 4, you can just forget rolling anything up and you can toast a corn or a flour tortilla until it's crisp, and then you can add toppings on top of that, including those leftovers, and you make like a tostada.
We
do that a lot.
We do. It's really good that way. You can also make quesadillas.
You're going to take a corn tortilla, spread something on that tortilla that's going to be like a binder. We like to use refried beans or even some hummus, some leftover baked sweet potato that's been mashed, something that's going to hold ingredients between two corn tortillas. Then after you've got that binder element on there, you're going to top it with some of the leftovers. Once again, place another corn tortilla over the top to make like a sandwich. Then you're going to place that in a nonstick skillet and just brown it on both sides.
You can also make pizza pockets.
We call them pizza pockets. You can call them hand pockets. The basic idea is to take some either homemade bread dough or pre-made bread dough. You're going to roll it out into 6-inch circles, fill half of that with some of the leftovers. Then you can add some pizza seasoning, some other pizza toppings. You can add barbecue sauce, salsa, any flavor that you would like, that combination. Only put it on half of that rolled out piece of bread dough. Fold it over, crimp the edges, then you're going to put it in a 375 oven for about 10-15 minutes until it browns, and you will have an amazing, it's like pizza, only you can pick it up and you can carry it from point A to point B. Makes it really easy to take in your lunch, and it definitely will stretch leftovers.
You can also spoon leftover rice and veggies into a pepper and make a stuffed pepper with it.
If you have some leftover meat, the best thing you can do is take that leftover meat and cut it into much smaller pieces. Add some veggies, add some rice, add some sauce, and you're going to be able to stretch that leftover meat to feed a family of 4 instead of just 1 or 2 people.
Of course, you can also add beans to anything.
Pretty much anything.
Yeah, they add a lot of nutrition, protein, and fiber.
Whenever you're creating main dishes, be sure to think in terms of filler ingredients. Now, your grandma did this with meatloaf. She always added a filler in order to stretch the meatloaf and make it feed more people. She perhaps added...
What did your mom add?
My mom sometimes added a piece or 2 of torn up bread, and she sometimes added oats. What did your mom do?
My mom always added oatmeal to her meatloaf, and it was good. It was really good that way.
Tell us in the comments section, what did your mom or grandma add to their meatloaf in order to make it stretch? Now, it doesn't seem to matter how much you stretch it. Your family eats more than you really think they are going to. So you're going to have some leftover meatloaf, or in our case, some leftover grain loaf the next day. What you want to do instead of serving it to individual people is to slice it thin, put it between slices of bread, and you have created meatloaf or grain loaf sandwiches that will feed you for another whole meal.
And once again, that will stretch what you have left in your refrigerator.
To give you another specific example of how this works, I had some leftover homemade vegan sausage patties. There was no way there were enough to feed all of us. So what I did was take each of those sausage patties and I put each one on a small bun. Then I served them for lunch with a side salad and a piece of fruit, and bingo, we had enough to feed the family.
These next ideas are all about stretching soup. Now, we have a lot of soup in our household, so this applies, I think this applies weekly to what we do, doesn't it?
Soup is definitely it's the frugal favorite, right? Now, you can stretch that soup by just simply adding another cup or 2 of vegetable stock to the soup pot, or even just water to the soup pot. And we all know you're going to serve another person or 2 when you do that. But there are also some other really interesting ways that you can stretch that soup.
To make the soup heartier, you might think about adding noodles, spaghetti, or macaroni.
Now, you also might consider something like rice or even millet or barley.
Red lentils added to soup will actually thicken it, while at the same time adding more fiber and protein.
Another way to serve soup, which is going to stretch it and make it go farther, is to serve it over day-old bread. You get that crusty bread on the half-off shelf, and by the next day you're like, whoa, baby, this is really, really hard bread. Just cut it into small pieces, put it in the bottom of your soup bowl, and then put the soup on top. And it eliminates the need for either croutons or even adding crackers to the soup. It's kind of a substitute.
I'd like to give a side tip to bread.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with our topic, but it just has to do with bread that might be a little stale. If bread is just a little bit crusty, put it in your microwave for 10 to 15 seconds, and it will freshen that up as if it were baked that day. Use thick soups like chili as a base for your recipes.
I want to show you exactly how this works so you can take one big pot of chili and you can serve your family for at least 3 different meals. You ready? Here we go. So you're going to make a very large pot of chili. The first night, everybody's going to get 1 bowl of chili. Make sure that you have reserved or set aside at least 4 or 5 cups of that chili before you serve it the first night. Second night, you'll take about 3 cups of that leftover chili and you're going to cook some elbow macaroni, stir that chili in, maybe add a little more seasonings. And if you're not vegan, you're going to go ahead and top that with dairy-based cheese, or you can add vegan cheese to the top. Put it in the toaster oven and let that bake off for 15, 20, 25 minutes until it's all warm through and the cheese is melted, and you have made mac and cheese for supper the second night. Third night, you've got a cup or 2 of leftover chili. You're going to make hot dogs, or in our case, carrot dogs, and serve those carrot or hot dogs with a healthy dollop of chili on top to make chili dogs. You can also add like some pickle relish, or you can add some chopped up onions to kind of get that Chicago kind of flavor hot dog going on for meal number 3. There you go. 1 big pot of chili, 3 meals. Now, this next tip, Larry says his mother did not do. My mother did do this, and we can't wait to hear y'all weigh in the comments section as to whether your mother did it. What is it, Larry?
Okay, first I'll tell you what it is, and then I'll explain. All right, so you can grind up leftover meat and then make that into a sandwich mix for the next day. Now, my mom didn't do this because we never had any leftover meat. She didn't make that much. She made enough for 1 portion for each of us. So when we were done, the meat was gone.
This next tip has to do with parts of vegetables that you might actually be throwing out. Throughout the week as you're cooking, you want to keep vegetable scraps. Wash them up, put them in a bag which is labeled vegetable broth. At the end of the week, take out those scraps, put them in your pressure cooker, and just cover them with water. Then you're going to pressure cook them for 17 minutes and you will have made homemade vegetable broth, and it's cost you $0 because you're using parts you would have thrown out anyway.
You also can stretch pre-made products like stew by adding some additional ingredients. Now, a viewer wrote to us named Josephine, and she says, and I'm just going to read it here, I found some canned beef stew that I actually liked. To stretch this out, I put half a can of carrots, potatoes, and corn into it. I also make 2 cups of rice. I can get 4 meals out of this. The stew is $2. It's $1.50 for the extra vegetables, and guessing $1 for the rice. This rounds out to be about $1 per meal. Way to go, Josephine.
That is a great tip. And speaking of great tips, if you get to the end of the video and you think, ooh, there's some stuff she missed, ways that you can stretch your food in order to feed your family for more than 1 night, tell us in the comments section. We love hearing from you.
And if you've liked this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. We'd like to have you hang around.
The next tip is all about pancakes for supper, because everybody knows there's nothing better for supper every once in a while than breakfast for supper. But remember, I told you this is all about stretching what's left over. So how in the world, other than freezing the leftover pancakes, what can you do with them? My kids did this every once in a while. You will take those leftover pancakes and you will spread peanut butter and jelly on 1 leftover pancake. Put another leftover pancake on top of it, and you will eat peanut butter and jelly pancakes for lunch the next day.
And now, a bonus tip. If you serve your meals on smaller plates, your family will eat less. But what if you're invoiding?
We are
got a new word for you.
Invoid stuff.
Invoiding. Look that up in your dictionary. We had a viewer named Josephine.
Okay, you want to try that again?
Yeah, I will. Because we don't talk like that.
How about some really great ideas on how to serve your family for an entire week using just $20 worth of items that my son Daniel and I bought from Dollar Tree. We did a video on it and showed you exactly what to do. The video, it's right over there. Give it a watch.